seems to be another case of deviancy. 5 players with decadent avatars. They're disrupting the other players with their flagrant deviancies. They're all male, mostly teenagers and some adults. The second and the third reported even more cases involving inappropriate acts against one another.
Enough now. Return to base.
It has not slowed down a bit. Have we found ourselves in an inescapable situation where decadence and immorality will only grow? If so, I must expose it to the light. Here is the concept of causality. It is said that one process or event causes an effect, a consequence, an independent variable and a dependent variable. We can apply this logic to the internet as a whole and the Roblox platform. If something is popular around the internet, it consequentially affects Roblox and its players. Whatever popular thing that has risen in the online space, it will be reflected onto Roblox. If we are to take examples, there are many. In the early days of Roblox, players greatly enjoyed Super Mario 64 bloopers, and loved to death the Scatman song. Despite the archaic nature of the platform, the love for both media was reflected by countless fan videos due to the extreme popularity they gathered. And that's not even talking about the LOL What Hat series and the Epic Face, which were both popular old memes turned into player items by Roblox. Another example that can be empirically verified are the trending stuff and popular characters, including the NSFW parts for both categories. How many times have you seen a player showing their love to a certain character throughout their avatars on Roblox? My guess is that it would have been very often. Digital Circus is our newest example for this, but sometimes popular media can be inappropriate, which can lead to teenagers and adults dressing themselves as characters from porn parodies. The next example are political issues. Because of the rapidity on which information flows around, events around the world can be seen with high commodity. Of course, it leads often to controversy. But where am I going with all of these examples? Well, here is my thesis. The more degenerate the internet has become, the more Roblox as a platform and its players have been influenced by degeneracy. But even then, this degeneracy has been growing on deep within Roblox. It seems a certain outbreak jump-started it all. Odors, which were ridiculed, have now been replaced by the everyday player. Players that frequently engage in acts of deviancies, whether it is through the usage of nasty avatars, or direct with words and inappropriate decals. I have collected a great deal of screenshots from various games. I will not showcase everything for your sake, but I will show you the worst ones, starting with Rate My Avatar. Rate My Avatar is not your ordinary hangout game. It is a watered-down version of a website known as 4chan, but that statement alone should spark concern within you. I sometimes call it an echo chamber, because of the inability of the players to realize of their wrongdoings. There are moderators to keep the players in check, but it is not enough. And let's not talk about the dubious past of the game's creator, a subject for another discussion. But first, how does this hangout game work? Number 1. There are boards upon which you can write anything and put any decals. They can be used to stimulate interaction with one another. However, it is usually misused to post undesirable things, and with the right bypass tools, they can be as creative as their imaginations allows them to. Number 2. As written on the game's name, you can rate other people's avatars. Unfortunately, that gimmick alone paves the way for exhibitionists and flashers. It backfired in the worst way, as it is the perfect place to seek attention with a degenerate avatar. And yes, children and young teenagers play this game, so you can imagine their reactions upon getting flashed. Number 3. There are signs that you can use if you bought a game pass for further expression. These are also abused to get reactions from players. One simple premise, 3 ways to socialize. Yet, this place has managed to become one of the most toxic places on the platform. Degeneracy is glorified. Hate is glorified. Frequent arguments with one another and more. And remember of the relation of causality I spoke about at the start? For a reminder, here's my thesis. The more the internet has been influenced by degeneracy, the more it will be reflected onto Roblox. This theory applies especially to this game. I see no hope for this place, and I can think of a place similar to this one, named Booth Game. I took the time to interview many players about the state of this game. Many refused to engage, as they were the ones contributing to the game's toxicity. But for those who agreed, they are unanimous upon many things. Lots of obtrusive avatars, undesirable attention seeking, degeneracy under many forms, inappropriate trolls, the list goes on. Fun fact, some players not only randomly give abysmal rating to players, but also rate negatively those with good avatars. They also tend to down at someone to boost their rating in order to become the highest rated player in the server. It's like pushing away competition. It is crucial to expand our list, as degeneracy on Roblox is no longer concentrated to some games. Now, we must move on from this place. And this is just the beginning. I don't know how to explain this without shattering the innocence of you, the viewers. It's, well, pretty nasty. It's a pretend gangbang. It seems in some places, perversion has ruled over reason, over rationality. This place is not the only one like this. Booth Game, similar to Rate My Avatar in its function, is a hangout game. What distinguishes this place, however, are the many tools available for expression. You can acquire gear with your time spent in the game. There are also emotes free to use whenever you want. You can have customized booth, making sure that no same booth is seen. It does suffer the same problems as Rate My Avatar. However, the moderation for this game is stronger here, keeping the degenerates in check. Although, half of the moderation team is filled with furries. This can be either inconsequential, or a bad thing. Here's my take on it. They are biased, so don't joke about their fixations, lest you get banned. Even if this place is not as bad as Rate My Avatar, do not forget. A pretend gangbang also happened here, so stay on guard. The relation of causality applies there as well. I've exhausted this game. It is time to move on to another place, one that houses a lot of hormonal teenagers, one which I was met with disgust when gathering footage for my work. Write a letter. Write a letter is akin to Discord. The level of anonymity lets users do what they want, but it also brings out the worst out of people, especially adults and those in the stages of adolescence. What happens when you mix anonymity, cozy atmosphere and strong biological urges? You get a place that reeks of Lost. The problem isn't just centered around the adults, rather, it's also spread to young adults and teenagers, mostly boys who perform inappropriate acts against one another, so that they can satisfy their depraved needs. I've been monitoring this place for a long time, hence the amount of evidence I currently possess. But the biggest mystery that I've yet to decipher is how did such a simple game allow for degeneracy to flourish? Before we do that, we must speak of what the game is. Write a Letter is another hangout game. It is quite different from the previous games, as there are no booths. Rather, this game has a series of places and secret places where people can go and stimulate interaction with one another. The game's gimmick, as you've guessed by the title, is the ability to write letters. Players can do various things with them upon acquiring a paper. Players can show their letters directly to someone, stick them to specific walls or simply drop them for anyone that comes by to read it. If I were to describe my sightings in 2 words, it would be poor diction. 60% of the letters already written are safe, albeit weird since they are still affected by internet degeneracy. But the 40% rest of those letters are filled with crude and indecent writing. And these letters reflect the type of persons behind these. Most players do not engage in this mechanic. They may choose to interact with each other in an appropriate manner, or inappropriately. They unfortunately tend to follow their desires. Now on to the players. It is quite a disturbing sight. Degeneracy seems to be a norm in this place. To the avatars referencing countless not safe for work material up to how players interact with each other. Additionally, there's an epidemic of femboys and inappropriate furries. They are mainly hormonal teenagers, oftentimes doing indecent shit. Worst of all, this type of occurrence happens wherever you go. You don't even need to actively seek out these things. For such sexual deviancies to be happening left to right frequently, it was the reason I started monitoring this place. There's a thing that's been bothering me during my research. It's going to be relevant, but will deviate a bit from the subject. It's about the involvement of the owner called Hashiru. I know who this one is, and I've known him for years. He was primarily known for making RPG games in the early years of Roblox. His gory RPG series made him somewhat popular. He made another game called Fighters, which got featured by the Roblox channel. I played all of these games. They were genuinely good for their respective time frames, in times where Roblox games weren't very great. So for him to deviate from what he used to make, to ultimately be involved in a game that allows rampant deviant behavior to bloom, is very surprising. I am fully aware that none of the problems described were intentionally engineered. What's currently happening in Write a Letter is but an unforeseen consequence. But usually, there are ways to limit such behaviors, which leads to my next point. Is the moderation team doing their job? And the ones involved avoiding the problem? Moderation is key in controlling what happens around, such as the frequency of deviancies. According to a video that was shared to me coincidentally during my research, the moderation is neglectful. The moderation team, or more specifically Mintlin, head moderator and the second owner of the game, has stated that the letters are the only things that are being moderated. As for the players, accompanied by the many screenshots I've shown, it's Roblox's problem, not theirs. Contradiction. The video on which I got the information came out 2 months ago, yet, I've been monitoring this game for more than 2 months. Each time you join the game, you get a pop-up that explicitly says that inappropriate letters and misconduct are not tolerated. There is a contradiction between what the head moderator says and what the game clearly shows you. This pop-up has been there for more than 2 months already. It never changed and stayed the same for the past years. If what Mintlin states is true, I can't say the moderation is doing a good job either way. The letters are not properly moderated. You can join anytime and look for one that's NSFW. As for the players, we know now why the moderation in regards to them is so weak. Player activity remains untouched. Since Mintlin and Hashiru are somewhat closely associated, it is safe to deduce that they both know what's going on in the game. They both share information after all. The probability for the both of them to ignore the issues is high, but never 100%. The internet can corrupt people in ways that are predictable and mysterious at the same time. The deviant players, they stick close to their social spaces on the internet, like echo chambers. These individuals have been strongly influenced by the sexual media circulated around the online space. And now, if we apply the correlation, you can see with your own eyes that these players are openly expressing what they've internalized within themselves. Remember, all of them are real people. They have been taken care of by their parents. They do not spawn out of nowhere like in video games. If you put yourself in the place of the mother or father, you can imagine or attempt to sympathize on how sad it is. Some of them are genuinely ruining their lives, while others do it to ignite conflict and dissociate themselves from their actions. Such is the age of the internet. Unfortunate. Any good that could be plucked out from this game has been stained by this overwhelming lustfulness. How unfortunate that this phenomenon is happening not only in this game, but mostly everywhere on the internet. I am not the only one who sees this pestilence. There are others. YouTubers and players who have uncovered Roblox for what it truly is, and of what it became to be. Places like Vibe Games, or Public Bathroom Simulator. I've monitored them to see the extent of this phenomenon. This worries me. The youth indulge themselves in depravities more than before. These depravities will haunt some of them until death. It is as they live in a different world, one without virtue, dignity or self-restraint. And now, recent findings have shown that the problem has degenerated further than before, with antagonist rings that seek to force themselves onto the children. What used to be a warm space, has now turned into a hostile environment for the soul. Decadence has increased so drastically, that you can risk being exposed to something undesirable. Children especially, put themselves at risk of danger, just by surfing the internet. And unfortunately, just by playing Roblox as well. Things are not the way they used to be. Roblox, or precisely the company, has been slowly disconnected from its platform and community. Moderation is neglected because of that. This, coupled with internet degeneracy, have produced terrible consequences to the platform's online space, and in turn, to one's safety. Be good, and stray away from these sinful activities. Stay together as a unit far away from it, and do not follow the masses, the everyday player, for you will be led into an undesired place. You can make change with the information I gave, just like those who came before me. I've met some of my viewers during my monitoring process. They were, to my surprise, quite content upon meeting me, despite my very low presence in Roblox's online space and in YouTube in general. This can only mean one thing: the value of my work is recognized, appreciated and cherished, as long as I get to have viewers like you, who are willing to see the truth within Roblox in its unraveled state, and care enough to make a change about it. Gradually, but surely, things will go well.